Hello friends, welcome to the BPSC junction. Let's start with the chapter number 2, that is land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife. In a small village in Tanzania, Africa, Mamba gets up very early in the morning to fetch water. She has to walk a long way and returns after a few hours. She then helps her mother in the house and joins her brothers in the taking care of their goats. All her family owns is a piece of rocky land around their small hut. Mamba's father can barely grow some maize and beans on it after toiling hard. This is not enough to feed their family for the whole year. Peter lives in the heart of sheep rearing region in the New Zealand where his family runs a wool processing factory. Every day when he returns from the school, Peter watches his uncle taking care of their sheep. Their sheep yard is situated on a wide grassy plain with hills in the far distance. It is managed in a scientific way using the latest technology. Peter's family also grow vegetables through organic farming. Mamba and Peter stay in two different parts of the world, lead a very different lives. This difference is because of differences in the quality of land, soil, water, natural vegetation, animal, and uses of technology. The availability of such resources is the main reason places differ from each other. Do you know 90% of the world population occupies only 30% of the land area? The remaining 70% of the land is either sparsely populated or uninhabited. Land is among the most important natural resources. It covers only about 30% of the total area of the Earth's surface, and all parts of this small percentage are not habitable. The uneven distribution of population in different parts of the world is mainly due to varied characteristics of land and climate. The rugged topographic steep slopes of mountain, low-lying areas susceptible to water, logging, desert area, thick forest area, or normally sparsely populated or uninhabited. Plains and river valley after suitable land for agriculture. Hence, these are the densely populated area of the world. Land use. Land is used for different purposes such as agriculture, forestry, mining, building houses, road and setting up of industry. This is commonly termed as land use. Can you list out different ways in which Mambas and Peter family use their land? The use of land is determined by physical factors such as topography, soil, climate, and minerals, and availability of water. Human factors such as population and technology are also important determinants of land use pattern. Land can also be classified on the basis of ownership as private land and community land. Private land is owned by individuals, whereas community land is owned by community for common use like collection of fodder, fruits, nuts or medicinal herbs. These community lands are also called common property resources. Peoples and their demands are ever growing, but the availability of land is limited. The quality of land also differ from place to place. People started encroaching the common lands to build up commercial areas, house complexes in the urban areas, and to expand agriculture land in the rural area. Today, the vast changes in the land use pattern also reflect the cultural changes in our society. Land degradation, landslides, soil erosion, desertification are the major threats to the environment because of the expansion of agriculture and the construction activity. Conservation of land resource. Growing population and their ever-growing demand has led to large-scale destruction of forest cover and arable land and has created a fear of losing these natural resources. Therefore, the present rate of degradation of land must be checked. Afforestation, land reclamation, regulated use of chemical pesticide, afforestation, land reclamation, regulated use of chemical pesticide and fertilizers, and check on overgrazing are some of the common methods used to conserve land resources. Weathering, the breaking up and the decay of exposed rocks by temperature change, forced actions, plants, animals, and human activity. Soil, the thin layer of grainy substance covering the surface of earth is called soil. It is closely linked to land. Landform determine the type of soil. Soil is made up of organic matter, minerals, and weathered rocks found on the earth. This happens through the process of weathering. The right mix of mineral and organic matter make the soil fertile. Landslides are simply defined as the mass movement of rock, debris, or earth down on down a slope. They often take place in the conjunction with earthquakes, floods, and volcanoes. A prolonged spell of rainfall can cause heavy landslide that can block the flow of river or quite sometime. The formation of river blocks can cause havoc to the settlement of downstream on its bursting. In the hilly terrain, landslides have been a major and widely spread natural disaster that often strike life and property and occupy a position of major concern. A case study: a massive landslide hit Panji village near Rekong Pio in Kinnaur district of Himachal Pradesh and damaged a 200-meter stretch of old Hindustan Tibet Road, National Highway 22. The landslide was triggered by intense blasting at Panji village. Due to blasting, this weak zone of slope collapsed and caused intense damage to the road and nearby villages. The Panji village was completely vacated to avoid any possible loss of life. Mitigation mechanism. Advancement in the scientific techniques have empowered us to understand what factors cause landslides and how to manage them. Some broad mitigation techniques of landslides are as follows: hazard mapping to locate areas prone to landslides. Hence, such area can be avoided for building settlements. Construction of retention wall to stop land from slipping. Increase in the vegetation cover to arrest landslide. The surface drainage control works to control the movement of landslide along with rainwater and spring flows. The topsoil with humus and vegetation, subsoil with sand, silt and clay, weathered rock material, parent rock. Do you know it takes hundreds of years to make just 1 centimeter of soil? Factors of soil formation. The major factors of soil formation are the nature of parent rock and climatic factors. Other factors are topography, role of organic materials, and the time taken for the composition of soil formation. All these differ from place to place. Soil. Parent rock determine the color, texture, chemical property, mineral content, and permeability. Relief at altitude and slope determine the accumulation of soil. Flora, fauna, and microorganisms affect the rate of humus formation. Time determines the thickness of soil profile. Climate, temperature, rainfall influence the rate of weathering and humus formation. Degradation of soil and conservation measures. Soil erosion and depletion are the major threats to soil as a resource. Both human and natural factors can lead to degradation of soils. Factors which lead to soil degradation are deforestation, overgrazing, overuse of chemical fertilizer or pesticide, rainwash, landslides, and flood. Some methods of soil conservation are listed below. Mulching. The bare ground between the land is covered with a layer of organic matter like straw. It helps to retain soil moisture. Contour barriers. Stone, grass, soil are used to build barriers along contours. Trenches are made in front of the barriers to collect water. Rock dam. Dams are piled up to slow down the flow of water. This prevents gullies and further soil loss. Terrace farming. Broad, flat step or terraces are made up on the steep slopes so that flat surfaces are available to grow crops. They reduce surfaces runoff and soil erosion. Intercropping. Different crops are grown in alternate rows and are sown at different times to protect the soil from rainwash. Counter plugging. Plugging parallel to the contour of hill slope to form a natural barrier of water to flow down the slope. Shelter belts. In the coastal and dry region, the rows of trees are planted and to check the wind movement to protect soil cover. Water. Water is a vital renewable natural resource. 3/4 of the Earth's surface is covered with water. It is therefore appropriately called water planet. It was in the primitive ocean that life began almost 3.5 billion years ago. Year back, even today, the oceans cover two-thirds of the Earth's surface and support a rich variety of plant and animal life. The ocean water is, however, saline and not fit for human consumption. Fresh water accounts for only about 2.7%. Nearly 70% of this occurs as ice sheet and glaciers in Antarctica, Greenland, and mountain regions. Due to their location, they are inaccessible. Only 1% of fresh water is available and fit for human use. It is found as groundwater, as surface water in rivers and lakes, as water vapor in the atmosphere. Fresh water is therefore the most precious substance on the earth. Fresh water can neither be added nor subtracted from the earth. Its total volume remains constant. Its abundance only seems to vary because it is in constant motion, cycling through the oceans, the air, the land, the back and back again through the process of evaporation, precipitation, and runoff. This, as you already know, referred as a water cycle. Do you know in 1975 the consumption of water for human use was 3,850 cubic kilometer per year. It soars to more than 6,000 cubic kilometer per year in the year 2000. Do you know a dripping tap wastes to 1200 liters of water in a year? Human use huge amount of water not only for drinking and washing but also for the process of production water for agriculture industry generating electricity through reserves of dams are the other uses. Increasing population, rising demands for food and cash crops, increasing urbanization and rising the standard of living are the major factors leading to storage in the supply of fresh water, either due to drying up water sources of water pollutions, problems of water activity, problems of water availability. There is a scarcity of water in many regions of the world. Most of Africa, West Asia, South Asia, parts of western USA, northwest Mexico, parts of southern America, and entire Australia are facing shortage in fresh water supply. Countries located in climatic zones most susceptible to drought face great problems of water scarcity. Thus, water shortage may be consequence of variation in the seasonal or annual precipitation of scarcity is caused by over-exploitation and contamination of water resources. Conservation of water resources. Access to clean and adequate water sources is a major problem facing water today. Steps have taken to conserve this dwindling resource. Even though water is a renewable resource, its overuse and pollution makes it unfit for use. Discharge of untreated or partially treated sewage, agriculture, chemical, or industrial influence in water bodies are major contaminants. They pollute water with nitrates, metal, and pesticides. Most of these chemicals are non-biodegradable and reach human bodies through water. Water pollution can be controlled by treating these effluents suitably before releasing them in the water bodies. Forest and other vegetation overflow the surface runoff and replace groundwater. Water harvesting is another method to save surface runoff. The canals used for irrigating fields should be properly lined to minimize the losses by water seepage. Sprinklers effectively irrigate the area by checking the water loss through seepage and evaporation. In dry regions with high rates of evaporation, the drip water trickle irrigation is very useful. The valuable water resource can be therefore conserved by adopting this means of irrigation. Do you know rainwater harvesting is the process of collecting rainwater from the rooftops and directing it to the appropriate location where it is stored for future use? An average, one spell of rain of 2 hours is enough to save 8,000 liters of water. Natural vegetation and wildlife. Some school children were visiting an exhibition on the handicraft. The article in the exhibition were collected from different parts of country. Mona picked up a bag and examined. This is a beautiful handbag. Yes, it is made of from jute. The teacher said, "Do you see those basket lamps and chairs? These are made of cans and bamboos. In the eastern and northeastern humid regions of India, bamboo grows in plenty." Jessie was excited to see a silk scarf. See this beautiful scarf. The teacher explained that the silk is obtained from the silkworms that are bred on mulberry trees. The children understood that plants provide us with many different products that we use in our day-to-day life. Natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in the narrow zone of contact between the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere that are called biosphere. In the biosphere, living beings are interrelated and interdependent on each other for survival. This life supporting system is known as ecosystem. Vegetation and wildlife are valuable resources. Plants provide us with timber, give shelter to animals, produce oxygen we breathe, protect soil so essential for growing crops, acts as a shelter belt, helps in storage of underground water, gives us fruit, nuts, latex, turpentine, oil, gum, medicinal plants, and also the paper. So that is so essential for your studies. There are innumerable uses of plants, and you can add some more. Wildlife includes animals, birds, insects, as well as aquatic life forms. They provide us milk, meat, hides, and wool. Insects like bees provide us honey, help in pollination of flowers, and have an important role in the as a decomposer in the ecosystem. The birds feed on insects and act as a decomposers as well. Vulture, due to the ability to feed on dead livestock, is a scavenger and considered as a vital cleanser of the environment. So animals, big or small, all are integral to maintaining the balance in the ecosystem. Do you know vultures in the Indian subcontinent were dying of kidney failure shortly after scavenging livestock treated with difenc, a painkiller that is similar to aspirin or ibuprofen? Efforts are on to ban the drug of livestock use and breed vultures in the captivity. Distribution of natural vegetation. The growth of vegetation depends primarily on temperature and moisture. The major vegetation types of the world are grouped as a forest, grassland, scrubs, and tundra. In the area of heavy rainfall, huge trees may thrive. The forests are thus associated with areas having abundant water supply. As the amount of moisture decreases, the size of tree and the density reduces. Short, stunted trees and grasses grow in the region of moderate rainfall, forming the grassland of the world. Thorny scrubs and scrubs grow in the dry area of low rainfall. In such areas, plants have deep rooted and leaves with thorny and waxy surface reduce loss of moisture through transpiration. Tundra vegetation of cold polar region comprises of mosses and lichens. Today, there are many more people in the world than there were 2 centuries back. To feed the growing numbers, large areas of forest have been cleared to grow crops. Forest cover all over the world is vanishing rapidly. There is an urgent need to conserve these valuable resources. Conservation of natural vegetation and wildlife. Forests are of our wealth. Plants give shelter to animals and together they maintain the ecosystem. Changes of climate and human interference can cause the loss of natural habitats for the plant and animals. Many species have become vulnerable and endangered, and some are on the verge of extinction. Deforestation, soil erosion, constructional activity, forest fires, tsunami, and landslides are the sum of the human and natural factors which accelerate the process of extinction of these resources. One of the major concerns in this is the poaching, which result in a sharp decline of number of particular species. The animals are poached for collection and illegal trade of hides, skins, nail, teeth, horns, as well as feathers. Some of these animals are tiger, lion, elephant, deer, black buck, crocodile, rhinoceros, snow leopard, ostrich, and peacock. This can be conserved by increasing awareness. National parks, wildlife sanctuary, biosphere reserves are made to protect our natural vegetation and wildlife. Conservation of creeks and lakes and wetlands is necessary to save the precious resources and depletion. There is a balance in the environment if the relative number of species is not disturbed. Human activities in several parts of the world have been disturbed the natural habitats of many species due to the indiscriminate killings of several birds and animals have either become extinct or are on the verge of extinction. Awareness programs like social forestry and Ban Mahotsav should be increased at the regional and community level. School children should be encouraged to bird watch and visit nature camps so that they appreciate the habitat of varied species. Many countries have passed laws against the trade as well as killing of birds and animals. In India, killing lion, tiger, deer, great Indian bustard, and peacocks is illegal. An international convention sites has been established that lists several species of animals and birds in which trade is prohibited. Conservation of plants and animals is an ethical duty of every citizen. National park, a natural area of designated to protect ecological integrity of one or more ecosystem for the present and future generation. Biosphere reserve is a series of protected area linked through a global network intended to demonstrate the relationship between conservation and development. Do you know CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, is an international agreement between the government. It aims to ensure the international trade of species means of wild animals and plants does not threaten the survival. Roughly 5,000 species of animals and 28,000 species of plants are protected. Bears, dolphin, cacti, corals, orchid, and aloes are some examples.